Good morning. First, I want to thank the NAACP for standing with this family. Long before I was involved, long before Chris Stewart was involved, this family received the support of the local NAACP and the national legal apparatus. This organization has been a safeguard for the African American communities. Is as they often say, the oldest and the boldest civil rights organization in the history of this country. And their partnership with this family has meant a great deal, especially when they started listening before the video was released. They started listening before anybody else cared. They started listening when it was just Wanda Cooper and Marcus Arbery fighting for justice for their child and trying to get the world's attention. So thank you all so very much. It means the world to this family. Ms. Cooper, who would love to be here herself, sends her great gratitude that you all continue to stand with her and fight alongside of her. A lot of people have asked, why are organizations like the NAACP involved in a private killing? This was an unfortunate circumstance that the national media has blown out of proportion, that race was not involved. Just because the assailants were white and the victim was black, that didn't mean that they attacked him because he was black, but they suspected him of a crime. We often hear that in the black community. We are often told that we are unfairly imputing race on a narrative, that we are race baiting. It is important to know what each of the previous speakers representing this great organization said ahead of me, that this is not constrained to the events of February 23rd. The injustice, the greatest injustice in this case was not only the brutal murder of Ahmaud Arbery, but the response by the legal apparatus of South Georgia. They responded as if his life didn't matter. And in George Barnhill, the district attorney who first really got involved with this case, in his words, he explained why. And it was because Ahmaud Arbery was black. He said specifically in a letter to the Attorney General of Georgia that Ahmaud Arbery was no stranger to the criminal justice system, that his family and friends were no stranger to the criminal justice system. And in common parlance, what the American culture has started to do, they realized it was unpopular to kill people because they're black, so instead they started calling them criminals. Criminal is the new black. And if you can impute criminality on the mundane, like jogging down the street, then you can justify a murder. Yesterday, one of the attorneys for one of the suspects in this case, William Bryan, stood in front of the national media, and he tried to make his client the victim. It boggles the mind how he was able to make the jump to say that his client, and I quote, was unarmed and afraid, after watching the video that his client took of Ahmaud Arbery as they pursued him through the Centilla Shores community. The reason he was able to make that mental jump is because he doesn't see race. And people in this culture today have decided that that is a good thing, not to see race. We want you to see the race of Ahmaud Arbery. We want you to see the blackness, and we want you to see when things like this happen over and over and over again, it's happening to black people. And when it's justified, when a young woman is playing video games with her nephew at home and she leaves the door open, and they call her a criminal and they go in and shoot her to death in Fort Worth, Texas, we want you to see the race issue. And we want you to see why her playing video games with her nephew was seen as criminal. It was because of her blackness, that she was living in a black community. When Botham Jean was shot to death in his home eating a bowl of ice cream, the woman who came into his home, into his place, said that he was a criminal. She suspected that he was a criminal, and she used that to shoot him to death. And people said, where was race in this case? Criminal is the new black. And over again, the black community has been called criminals. Barbecuing, criminals walking down the street, criminals jogging. Ahmaud Arbery has been in the media today. They continue to release new images attempting to criminalize Ahmaud Arbery, the victim. when the criminals remain William Bryan, Gregory McMichael, and Travis McMichael. And so I thank this organization on behalf of this family for seeing Ahmaud Arbery as the victim that he is, and calling the criminals, the people who murdered a jogger on video, what they are. And I'm going to turn this conversation over to my esteemed colleague, Chris Stewart. Thank you.
Have you ever? Oh.